Hello again. Welcome, one and all, to uh, the channel. Today we're dealing with a heavier subject, something that I think we really need to have a serious conversation about. I mean, it's no secret, I guess, considering it's the title, but we're going to have a conversation about toxic ableism. Now, there is a huge intricacy and intersectionality to disability in different groups, in what ableism is faced and varying degrees that it manifests. So I can only talk to what I have directly experienced and from what I've heard in the wider community. But I will try to keep this to kind of what affects the majority for the sake of clarity and respect. Goes without saying, but I will be talking about serious subject matter today. So here's your trigger warning for ableist language, and also talks of suicide. So we will get into it. I never really kind of know what to do with the intro, so I don't know what that's going to be. That's a challenge for later. So you heard the title, Toxic Ableism, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, you may be intrigued at this point, thinking kind of ableism is ableism, and if you don't insult people with disabilities, that's kind of all you have to worry about. It's, while technically also true, and something that we still struggle with asking of some people, there is more to it than that. When you think of ableism, you must think of the obvious stuff. Calling somebody the R word, the S word, or even openly telling others your belief that, and this is a quote that was said to somebody very close to me who didn't know that I existed in their life, and their belief was that all people with disabilities should be marched down to a river and drowned. That is not okay. And if that bothered you to hear, if that was a trigger for you, again, I'm sorry. I did offer a trigger warning at the beginning, and this is kind of my last warning. So these are still wrong. Great. We've reached stage 1 of understanding and stopping ableism. So, it's time to throw a banquet. Unfortunately, it's not that simple, like, I just said, and like the title would probably suggest. We need to think deeper. Are you still using some of these words in your everyday language? It doesn't really matter that you're technically not calling somebody that word, or using it in a derogatory way. It is still a word that affects people, and it, by continuing, you're still negatively affecting people in your life who you may not even know have a mental illness, and you kind of push those people away before you even get to know them. You're kind of creating a space where these people just don't feel comfortable talking about their disability, and they don't feel comfortable, like just being themselves. So obviously that is a problem of itself. Water. Good reset to the voice. Okay. So we're not having this conversation as anything other than me choosing to educate the whole. Once again, I am not here to shame anybody. One of the biggest judges of character to me is the ability to learn every day and admit faults and mistakes of the past and integrate their new knowledge into their lives. My intention here is to be clear and to be concise about certain things and bring these subjects forward to educate. Change is uncomfortable, trust me. I'm literally autistic, and it's kind of one of our things. I've been kind of back and forth about talking about this because it is such an uncomfortable subject. But I think it's important to talk about and get a narrative, not started, because obviously there's been way before me, but continue the narrative and continue talking about these things and get a dialogue going. So I'm going to the format of this video is I'm going to talk about some specific topics, specific phrases, whatever, and kind of dissect why those are not the greatest. Now, again, I will say these are things that I have personally heard or seen as a problem societally. In addition to things I've heard from others in the community. I wanted to say that once again. Unfortunately, as somebody who is capable of masking very well in public, I have heard some things that are great from people kind of not knowing like what I have and stuff. So a lot of the time I would, like at work, have customers just, having a nice chit chat going while I'm ringing up their order or whatever. And, just casually, I have to visit my R-word relative. I'm really sick of this. They should all just be like locked up so I don't have to see them anymore. And I'm at work. So unfortunately, I can't really say anything. And really, do I want to? Spend that energy. But I figured something like this is a better use of that energy in this moment. And I don't want to focus on things that are more kind of you can see that and be like, okay, Ben, I understand. That is bad. I can see that. Great. That is wonderful. I'm just actually going to turn my laptop brightness down a bit. But the thing is that there are things still that a lot of people don't think that are ableism, and I'd rather focus on those things. If you're worried that I'm focusing on things that don't, in your eyes don't matter, I am choosing to focus on these things because they feed into the greater issue. So, yeah. Okay. Let me take a good sip of water. Hydrate. First thing I want to talk about. Heard this. This is actually something very common I've heard from a lot of people, and it's closed captioning inconveniences them, and they're vocal about hating closed captioning. So the thing is, and actually, sorry, along the lines of this too, I've also heard people say I don't even hang out with certain friends anymore because they have to use closed captioning, and I'd rather just not deal with it. And it's, I don't know. But I use closed captionings for multiple reasons. First of all, I have central auditory processing disorder, which is a fancy way of saying that my brain has trouble interpreting sounds, with extra trouble deciphering language. So for me, words need to be loud, clear, and I need to be paying full attention to hear them completely. And that goes for any sound like I'm trying to focus on. So if I ever laugh awkwardly after you've said something, maybe like after I've already like asked, could you repeat that once? It's because it's just a nervous habit of, if I can't hear you, I don't want to inconvenience people by continuously asking, because some people get real mad about that. So that's just kind of a defense mechanism I started. The problem is, to bring up a movies, television shows volume enough to hear the dialogue, it also invites a complete bombardment of other sounds. Like, action movies are ridiculous for this, because they'll be like whispering, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I gotta grab the remote, turn it up, hear what they're saying. Next thing you know, boom, your wall's coming down, freaking explosions are happening around you. That's how loud this crap is going. But this leads into my second reason: overstimulation. And sorry, the second reason that I use closed captioning. As someone with autism, I understandably don't like very loud sounds, and I have trouble picking out specific sounds when there is a lot of stimulation in the room. That means even when I turn it up, I may not even be able to hear the dialogue still because of other sounds that are going on in the mix. So obviously closed captions are a quite common thing in our household. Now, the problem is, I have heard before from people, and I'm going to repeat this again, that they refuse to watch TV with certain friends because they must put up with closed captioning if they do. As if it's not inconvenient for us to not hear whole scenes of dialogue because of something we can't control. The main reason I've heard defending this is the thinking that they don't want plot details ruined at the end of a sentence, at the beginning of the sentence, or lines ruined for them before they're spoken in like comedy, or they don't like seeing text on screen because it ruins the aesthetic of the show. Okay, I get it. There are certain things, sorry, I don't know why I did that, but there are certain things that bug certain people, and that is fine. The problem is, I can't control that I have issues hearing. Other people can't control that they have issues hearing. We don't have the privilege to worry about if the closed captioning's ruining the lines for us or whatever, because that's just a necessity. Anyway, so these seem like very minor inconveniences in the grand scheme of things, and it baffles me that these things seem more important, I'm so sorry, than people being able to access the media at all. Ultimately, yes. If it really is that much of a problem for you, technically you can just not hang out with these friends, and that is your choice, your prerogative. Oh my god. However, are you really being a friend to them? By like refusing to watch TV with people who need closed captioning because of these reasons, you are then sending the message to these people that they are less important to you than minor preferential inconveniences. Just take a think about that. I don't know. Bonka agrees. So the next topic is you don't look autistic. I couldn't even tell you're autistic. This one is a tough one to talk about. In most instances that I have personally seen, this has been said with the best of intentions. Unfortunately, you know what they say about the best intentions. Something about burning bridges, paved stones, something. Yeah, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that even if something is done with good intentions, it can still have an inadvertently negative impact on others. I've always felt weird hearing this one. In some misguided moments of the past, with my own like internalized ableism, I wore it as a badge of honor. And other times, a phrase that had an obtuse meaning to me. Autism is such a massive spectrum. What did it mean to not look autistic? Was that somehow an inherently positive thing? What parts of autism were being picked as like the autism chic? The thing is, when you deconstruct a phrase like this, it sets up the precedent that there is good autistic traits. She's very passionate about this one. And bad autistic traits. Usually, this is dependent on how we act and react in non-autistic society. With traits being deemed as good, the more in line with the good old social norm they land. We're pushed more to desire certain traits we don't have, and not develop the skills and traits that we do have. So this leads into a certain act. She is very passionate about this one. This leads into a certain act in the autism community, masking. Masking is many things, but specifically pertaining to this conversation, it's what a percentage of the community uses to push themselves into a socially acceptable box while interacting with the world. Masking can actually be very damaging, as it can create a slip between who we are and what we constantly need to present. While masking, we are shown how society can treat us when they don't know we are on the spectrum. And it can create a sense of depression and self-hatred to the true self. And it takes so much energy to do. And if like I'm working a whole shift masking, I can't do anything once I get home. I can't clean the house properly. I can't, I can't feed myself. I can't anything. Usually I just crawl into bed and throw on a game or something. And the problem is again, mentioned it earlier, the people who don't know you're on the spectrum, who then say like some messed up things to you, and that's just something you have to casually hear each day. Like when you're working with the public and not be able to like say anything about. I don't know, but anyway, moving on. In addition, not everyone on the spectrum is able to mask, which is perfectly fine and should be treated as such. But when it is put on such a pedestal as a desirable trait, it can both be damaging on the self and damaging as a society, creating a societal norm of what desirable autism should be. And anybody who lives outside of that realm is not like okay from like a societal view, and that's not okay. And then one more thing I wanted to bring up before we move on to the next topic is there is a more sinister version of this phrase. Usually it is just used against those of us who are able to mask as a way to somehow tell us we're not autistic because of it. Unfortunately, some people have one view of autism, usually as a negative, and tell everyone else that if we can speak normal, or that like we can provide for ourselves or anything like that, that we're not autistic. And you don't know us. You don't know what we struggle with. You don't know what our triumphs are. You just don't know like how we grew up. And that's because like every other human on earth, it's not everyone's business. I don't know. All right, next topic is gonna be a shorter one, just because I didn't write it out. I just thought of it for the video. Elitism in video games. Now, don't get me wrong, right? I like pushing myself in a good game. You know, I beat the Radiance in Hollow Knight. Proud of myself for that. I know damn well I'm never gonna get to absolute Radiance, but I got to one secret ending, so that's good. And so like that, like stuff like that's like a personal challenge for me. But there is like an elitism in video games where like if you aren't the absolute top level efficient, like beat games in the absolute best way you can, then like you're not playing games. And like they're just, I mean, like they're games. Like if you want to put some weight behind a game in like competitions or whatever, that's fine too. I personally too love watching the speedrun community. They are personally some of the highest skill players that I watch. But that's not the be all and end all of gaming. You can, just only enjoy one video game in your entire lifetime. You can enjoy every video game that's ever come out. You can enjoy only like certain consoles, or like that's the thing. But the thing is with elitism in video games as well, there tends to be a lot of pushback for accessibility controls and accessibility options, because a lot of people then think that it's a slight against them who beat it on like the highest difficulty if there's options for lesser difficulties, which is to me like, why does it affect you if you still get your challenge out of it? If you can still play and get your fun out of the game, why can't somebody come in and find their fun in the game? And a lot of the time, there's not a lot of accessibility options. There's not a lot of a lot of the alternative controllers are extremely expensive, and a lot of it has to be done like third party, figure it out, because a lot of the companies don't offer first party support. I'm so sorry, but I am not an expert in this in any degree. I just have the opinion of, if I want to push myself to a challenge like I do with Hollow Knight, if I play Dark Souls games, any of the Soulsborne games, or any other, like, I don't know, like just if I want to challenge myself, fine. If I just want to be like casual, fine. And then like there's a lot of things where I need accessibility options because I have issues with fine motor controls and reaction timing and stuff. And so it just kind of helps us. It just kind of helps more people access a medium that's meant for everybody. And if you kind of are more interested in hearing about these things, I highly recommend. I completely binge watched her entire series, Accessibility. I will throw the playlist up in an annotation right here. And oh yeah, oh my god. And you can check her out. She does a fantastic series about accessibility in video games. Boom. All right. Okay, this next topic I brought up a little bit in the last video, or a lot in the last video. The idea that you can't find disabled actors or actresses, and or you can't handle the sunset. Y'all know my feelings on this already. I think it's absolutely a bonkers idea that we are too hard to find for roles. We are in the same places as everyone else. But the problem is, many times we aren't wanted on productions because of a couple of reasons. Reason one, we'll be able to call out ableist scripts, caricatures, and tropes, which will just bruise egos, honestly, and stop them from getting those sweet, sweet awards. Reason two, many times we are considered too difficult to understand. So there's no way they're going to spend an extra time or effort to make sets accessible and welcoming for all people in the industry. And honestly, prove me wrong. Please start hiring us. Start changing how the industry views casting and production timelines. And again, make sets accessible for all crew and cast, and give more roles to disabled actors and actresses. Until then, this just seems to be the case for now. Okay, next topic. Everyone is a little autistic. This is another one that is often said with the best of intentions. Usually, it is used as a way for people to try and empathize with us. While this is a very good mindset, the execution is just a little misguided. As per the last phrase like this, despite the good intentions, despite the good intentions, it often also conveys another meaning. When you say something like, everyone is a little autistic, I'm going to stake a guess and say it's usually as a way to help somebody feel comfortable talking about something that may affect them as somebody with autism. Unfortunately, this can often convey a flipped meaning and may have the opposite effect to what was intended. The thing is, yes, autism is not an inherently negative thing. That does not mean that there aren't many struggles that can stem from it. Some of these things may not be more than like an inconvenience to others, but for us, they can affect us deeply. By likening serious symptoms to mild symptoms each time we bring things up, it can feel like what we deal with is being minimalized. I know that this isn't the intention most times, but that doesn't make our feelings about this any less real or valid, which is why I bring this up in a format like this. Now, I will say, like the previous one too, this has been used as a way to deny autism and act as if what we deal with isn't real, and to the severity we describe it, because others also deal with these things to a lesser degree. The thing is, the spectrum is, once again, massive. So everyone has different traits, and how these traits affect them vary wildly. I've had non-autistic people tell me that I don't have autism because I don't display every single trait that they liken to autism. Every time they see me on camera or outside as an adult, they also don't know. Outside as an adult, they see me like that, and they see that I can mask as an adult, and they assume that I didn't struggle at all. They also don't know that growing up, my traits had a much stronger hold on me. And I struggled and worked my ass off to get to the point where I am now. Some things I just have to deal with to a certain degree, and some things I was able to dampen thanks to the hard work. And all of it makes me who I am. Hard work didn't cure me of my autism. It did help me in some degrees, but I am who I am. Okay, next topic. This one's going to be a brief one because it's fairly self-explanatory, but this is something that I have dealt with my entire life, and it is the most infuriating. I don't know if I even want to call it infuriating, because it's such a weird feeling. Basically, oh my god, see that little hair flip there? Jesus. Yeah, there we go. Okay, whatever. So the little hair up there. Talking down to me once I talk about my autism. For me, growing up, in line with my own internalized ableism, I didn't want to be perceived as somebody with a disability, because I was already, bullied a lot as a kid. I didn't want to be, and for like how I acted, obviously with, different things that I struggled with. So I didn't like to talk about my own mental illness and my own disabilities too much. The problem is when I did feel comfortable with some people, and comfortable enough to open up to some people, and this has happened my entire life. You tell them, and it's an immediate, and this it will be immediate. Oh, you have autism? Okay, well, that's good to know. I'll talk like this now. And it's like, that's insanely insulting to anybody on the spectrum. So it's just kind of not great to open up to somebody about a part of yourself and then once again have it shut back in. So that's self-explanatory. Don't do that. If somebody opens up to you about having a disability, don't do that. Yeah. The next topic is the STEM popularity cringe cycle. Don't know what this means. This is something we need to sit down and have a conversation about, because it's pervasive in general. Like, it's pervasive in all STEM categories, and it can happen anywhere. First, I'm jumping the gun here. First, stimming refers to self-stimulating behavior, which usually involves repetitive motions or sounds. There is also positive stim, which is usually either a tool, be it a physical object, certain audio, or certain visuals. These are used by many people as a way to help relieve stress or negative feelings or destimulate. This is used in many communities, but one major example is people with autism. Unfortunately, people really love latching onto these things. Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. People really love latching onto these things. In a sense, you would think that this would be great because it normalizes these, and it normalizes stimming behaviors. Unfortunately, it kind of has the adverse effect in the long term. As a society, we are ravenous for a constant flow of new content or new things, and then we leave them by the wayside just as quickly. Once something becomes popular, everyone needs to get in on it. Next thing you know, it's mentioned everywhere. You can't escape seeing the new fad. Understandably, you start getting sick of seeing it. Instead of just letting things die, though, society tends to have more of a tendency to label something as cringe once it's overdone. Basically putting the dead stamp on it, and making life hell for those people that use it for a reason. Let's look at a recent one, actually, because this is a very good example. Fidget spinners. If you just let out a little groan, that right there is a result of this cycle. As you can guess by the name, a fidget spinner is a toy used for people to fidget or stim, and it spins. Boom. Seems simple enough, but it can be extremely useful for people that need to constantly move their hands. So what's the big deal? Well, some company in 2017, what's the big deal? Some company in 2017 made it, and it picked up more steam than expected. That's not entirely true, though. Fidget spinners have been around as early as 1993, and it's been used as a tool for stimming. So you see now there's a history behind this, and we've used these for a long time. Now, more people start realizing they're fun to mess with. You start seeing videos of them, your friends start talking about them, bringing them to schools or workplaces or what have you. And it starts picking up steam. All of a sudden, prices start to skyrocket, and they're in every store you can think of. You see them on TV, you see celebrities talking about them. Now people start acting like damn fools with them in different places, getting them banned in classrooms for everyone, including the people who really needed them. The masses start getting bored with them and fidget spinner content, and they push back as they continue to see more and more ads, TV references, etc. And now they hate all things fidget spinners, and anyone who uses one is deemed as cringe. Now, the people who needed these tools, they're ostracized even more for just trying to live their lives. This is just one example of many, and is constantly happening for us. We're not saying not to enjoy these things too, but please just remember that even when you're done with it, a lot of us will still be here using them and needing them after you leave. Okay. Last topic before the closing notes. This one, again, I've been jumping back and forth on talking about, just because I don't know, some people might get really upset about this one, but it's something that still needs to be said. As a whole, Canada likes to say that it's the welcoming country, the everyone is loved here. But the thing is, that's not entirely true. We just like to push it under the rug more. We have, serious problems with racism, with homophobia, transphobia, ableism, just a bunch of different things, and we kind of never talk about it because we like to pretend like we are not in that problem, which is just not the case. I've grown up my entire life hearing like messed up things as far as in a lot of categories, but as far as ableism goes, and I don't think that it's entirely fair to people who deal with this stuff to then say, oh no, like Canada doesn't deal with these things. Like we're good. We don't, like, this doesn't happen. And and it's pervasive up into the government institution as well. Um, there's a lot of when I had to take time off of work for a while, there was a lot of things that I just couldn't do, and like I thought, I was always told, like, if you need government aid, if you need any help from the government when it comes to disability or anything like that, don't get married. Just do not get married. And I truly thought that, having my wife working a minimum wage job and me no job would be enough to warrant aid when like I had my serious like suicidal breakdown and everything, and aid when I needed help finding work and stuff, which thankfully I did end up finding an agency, but the main thing is that I got turned away everywhere because they said like, oh, well, because you're married, even though you're only working off of like one person's income, you're technically not eligible for this, and you're not eligible for this. And it's like, okay, well, are we going to talk about the fact that maybe maybe this is like a problem, like there's a lot of systems, not just systems like this, where you're meant to be only in a certain bubble to get this help, even if like you are still in that like financial category of needing aid. You need to not be married. You need to not be looking for work. You need to, like like there's things where it's like if you like are known looking for work or something, like you are automatically off the thing, and it's like, and so you're trying to put us into this bubble, and the marriage thing too, almost like, I don't know, like it seems like a way to push us not to like reproduce, like not to get married and stuff like that. Like it's incentive to, not do all of that and, not continue, I guess, our genes. I don't know. But moving on to the final note and the closing remarks. So I wanted to bring up one more thing before we close off this post. Post. I was reading off the post, yeah. This video. I need to talk a little bit more about medical bias towards mental illness and developmental disorders. Medical bias is a much, much bigger problem than this. And it seriously affects medical access and diagnoses to all vulnerable communities. I truly don't think it's you realize your own spelling errors. I truly don't think it's my place to talk about it as a whole, at least not by myself. But I do want to talk about at least this aspect right now. I'm not saying doctors and nurses are evil and can't be trusted, and no, that's ridiculous. However, they are meant to be unbiased and not motivated by hate when practicing. This is just not the case sometimes, though, as personal biases can easily seep into these environments. There have been doctors and nurses I've met my entire life that actually just didn't believe mental illness existed. I've also just met some vile people in hospitals, stressed or not. Some things are like not excusable, and so this is a very personal story for me. But it is important in explaining this better. And you kind of heard me mention in the last part, in the last topic, that I had a suicidal break. Yeah, well, that happened about a year and a half ago. And my wife had found me before I could go and do anything to hurt myself, and took me to the hospital. I waited there for most of the day before they kind of finally sent somebody into this big vault-like room they have. Which, like, if you weren't feeling suicidal before, you sure as hell were when you're locked in a room, gray room with a camera on the corner. You can't get out for anything. But I waited there. Yeah, I waited there for most of the day. And then they finally sent in one of the on-hand nurses that had no mental health training, anything like that. And they just given her a clipboard of questions to ask me. Fair, whatever. She doesn't need to have like training to do intake, whatever. My problem was, in one of the questions, I confided in her that I thought I negatively impacted the lives of the people around me. And by existing in people's lives, I was causing problems. Now, there are several things to say to this. One of the things that I don't recommend to say to this is, wow, you must think you're pretty important, huh? And kind of just call me full of myself that I thought I had impact on the lives around me. And so, like, that stung. So you're going to tell somebody that wants to die that their life has literally no bearing on the lives around them. Smart. I unfortunately had to weigh the option at this point that I was more in danger of suicide in that locked room than at home, which is messed up because I was in the center of a hospital. The point of that story is that the nurse let her own personal bias about mental illness spill into her work. And saying things like that to anyone in danger of that is negligible at best. I was lucky I had my wife there that day, because truly, if I had felt any more alone in that moment, I don't know what would have happened. That is why we need to take all of these things seriously, because they aren't just hypotheticals or tales or legends. These things are real and they're serious. I hope that the format of this post kind of really helped educate everyone. I said post again. I really hope the format of this video, as well as the post, I guess, really helped educate everyone in a more clear and concise way. Anyway, this one was a lot for me. Gonna lay down after this. Going to plug some videos. We got my gameplay video series, Civilization 6, still running on the channel. We also, if you want to check out my website, we have the new video portal up on there now. So my website, Twitter, Instagram, everything, you will find that down below. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye now.